I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and today I'm driving the Nissan X-Trail, or as it's known in some markets, the Rogue. The X-Trail is Nissan's best-selling product here in Australia, and although I spend a lot of my time talking about real benchmark SUVs like the Mazda CX-5 and the Peugeot 3008, the X-Trail is a real quiet achiever because it's actually the fourth best-selling SUV of this size on the Australian market. So I've borrowed this high-spec TI model to figure out what it is that the X-Trail is doing right. Well, I think this car scores a few easy wins. You can get it with 7 seats, just like a Honda CR-V. It has a good set of standard equipment, and I think that the recent facelift has given it some really good looks too. But what's the Nissan like to live with every day? Well, let's jump in, start finding out. Hop into the X-Trail and you'll find a cabin that feels relatively high quality, but aesthetically it's a generation behind newer rivals like the Tiguan, CX-5 and 3008. However, the X-Trail is cheaper than that set, so bear that in mind. Although these heated leather seats in the TI model are relatively soft, you sit quite high and the driving position is more of a perch than something sportier, so you certainly sit on the X-Trail rather than sliding down into it. And although you get some electric adjustment for both the driver and the front passenger, the seats lack under thigh adjustment, which means that if you've got particularly long legs, kind of like I do, you'll struggle to get truly comfortable. However, you can get the seats in this black leather or a really attractive tan colour. Further afield, this model and the model beneath it in the X-Trail lineup receive this 7-inch touchscreen here with navigation and DAB radio, while the base model gets a 5-inch screen. Now, it's here where the Nissan is really showing its age because this screen is just smaller, lower resolution, and it looks more old-fashioned than what you get in many of this car's rivals. So an update there is really critical for the next update or facelift to this car. However, the 8-speaker Bose stereo in the TI and TL models actually sounds really great. It's punchy and really crisp. Material quality, it errs on the side of being good. So you get this lovely steering wheel, which feels great in the hand. That's new. You get a soft touch dashboard, door tops, and this nice upholstered piece here, and also where your leg comes to rest. So that all gets a big tick, but you can find harsher plastics if you go looking for them, of course. Storage is pretty good. So there's 2 large cup holders between the seats, a relatively deep and large central bin there, and a good sized tray ahead of the shifter, and that's where you'll find this car's sole USB port, and there are smallish bottle holders in the doors. One of the Nissan X-Trail's biggest advantages is actually here in the back seat because it's massive as far as medium SUVs go. Firstly, you can fit 3 people across because although we're in the all-wheel drive model, the floor is almost completely flat and this middle seat isn't raised up too high, so an adult will fit. Here in the outboard seats, me at 6 foot, I've got heaps of headroom despite the panoramic sunroof, plenty of legroom and tow room as well, sitting behind myself, so that gets a big tick. The bench is also heated. Oddly, the control to heat it is actually up front with the driver and front passenger, but you get this fold down armrest here, which is actually a pass-through, so there's nothing separating me from what's in the boot right now, but you do get a pair of cup holders there. Fold that away. There are air vents here in the back. This seat is actually on rails and it reclines too. That's particularly meaningful if you get a 7-seat X-Trail. Here in the 5-seat model, it's really just a nice to have, but you also get a pair of bottle holders in the doors. If you go for one of the top spec X-Trails, they come with a kick to open tailgate, which is always a nice amenity for if you've got your hands full, if you've been grocery shopping or what have you. Now that tailgate comes up. Once it's open, you'll find that the Nissan has a really good boot. So it's 565 litres of space with the seats up. That's about 30% bigger than a Mazda CX-5, quite an achievement. The back seats fold flat, although you do have to walk around the side or do a big reach to fold those seats down from within the boot. You are missing a pair of shopping bag hooks, which is a little bit odd, but at least there are some clearly visible tie-down points. There is a 12-volt socket in here. You also get Nissan's really clever hide and divide system, which lets you pop valuables away underneath the boot floor where they won't be so easily seen. So, what is the X-Trail like to drive? Well, it may not be able to match the dynamic ability and the refinement of some of its newer and more premium rivals like the VW, Mazda or the Peugeot, but the X-Trail is actually pretty competent and relaxed as long as you don't push it too hard. So there are 3 engines available and I'm driving the one most people will buy. It's the 2.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol 4-cylinder. And it's the most popular because this is the only one of the petrols that you can get with an automatic gearbox. The other engine options are a 2-litre petrol, which comes with a 6-speed manual only, or a 2-litre turbo diesel. That one's 130 kilowatts and 380 newton meters. But this particular 2.5-litre petrol, this produces 126 kilowatts of power up high in the rev band and 226 newton meters of torque at about 4,400 RPM. And it's paired to a CVT automatic gearbox. Now those outputs are admittedly pretty modest, but the CVT does as good a job as it can to make the most of the power and torque. And the X-Trail with the 2.5 litre, it actually doesn't feel that slow. The CVT isn't up there with modern Hondas for its refinement, but your progress is decent. You can get the 2.5 litre with either front wheel drive or all wheel drive, and you will want to go with the front driver if you value fuel economy, because in this all wheel drive model, I've only been achieving about 12 litres per 100 kilometres in town this week. The main thing that I would suggest dynamically could be improved in a future update to the X-Trail is the steering. This update gave it a lovely steering wheel, which is great to hold, but the steering is just way too light. It's nice and quick, which means that maneuvering the X-Trail in tight spaces is really easy, and visibility is good to help you out as well. Plus you get a 360-degree camera in this model, but the steering feel is not there, and it just never weights up at higher speeds, which can make motorway driving a little bit tiresome. So putting a bit of weight into the steering would really help this car. But the X-Trail rides pretty well, it soaks up most imperfections, and road noise is impressively limited. We also like that the X-Trail comes with a good suite of safety features. The base model gets AEB and forward collision warning, and as you step up the range you can get access to blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, active cruise control and lane keep assist as well. So those are my thoughts on the facelifted Nissan X-Trail. Sure, this SUV doesn't hit the high highs of the Peugeot 3008 or the Mazda CX-5, but for people that just want a dependable, easy to drive, inexpensive and now more attractive family car, the Nissan ticks plenty of boxes, especially if you can negotiate a great deal. Thanks to new safety technology, it's also a car you can be more confident driving in the city. All in all, it's not a bad effort and a car I would be happy enough to own.